What I want to do is discuss the differences between public versus private and permissioned versus permissionless blockchain networks, okay? A public blockchain, the biggest difference between a public and private blockchain is related to who is allowed to view the ledger. So in a Bitcoin network, for example, anybody can go view that ledger. You can download a wallet, you can go examine any transaction on there without knowing who's connected to each one of those addresses. You won't be able to tell who is actually processing those transactions, but you could look up various transactions and see some commonality in the wallets and see who has how much Bitcoin. Like we can track today the original Bitcoin founder, who has the acronym Satoshi Nakamoto, and see that he has about 20% of the total Bitcoin ever mined, and it has just been sitting there static, never used, ever since the emergence of Bitcoin, which is kind of an interesting topic. So that leads us to the idea of a private blockchain. So what is the difference between a private blockchain? Ledgers in a private blockchain are not visible to the public. In fact, you might not even be able to find where the blockchain is. You might not be able to see anything more than a website that's about the blockchain. And in order to get into a blockchain like that, you have to be either invited to it or you have to request permission, just like you would join any other network that is exclusive to its members, okay? So a permissioned blockchain then is usually used for a private blockchain. And in order to participate, you need to be invited. For legitimate business uses, this blockchain then has some requirements, usually, for anti-money laundering laws, if I could just get my tongue to say that, that requires business to know who is involved in the network. So there's certain kinds of blockchains that are doing certain types of business, like in finance, where in order to continue doing business and be compliant with federal government regulations or even regulations throughout the world, are required to know who their customers are. And so permissions a lot of times are required in those kind of networks. So generally the private blockchains will be permissioned blockchains. Probably the most popular one is Linux Foundation's Hyperledger Fabric, which is the blockchain network that is used by IBM when they build blockchains for other companies, such as TradeLens that we've been talking about in my other lectures. So then there's permissionless blockchains, and permissionless blockchains allow anyone to join, and they kind of correlate with the public blockchains, because public blockchains allow anybody to see the ledger. Permissionless blockchains also let anybody participate in that blockchain. For example, I can get a wallet, I can get an account, I can go buy Bitcoin. All I have to do is create the wallet and create a purchase and send money to that wallet through an exchange or other medium. Okay, so now one thing about this is this note right here. Permissioned blockchains do not need miners like Bitcoin blockchain network does, okay? They're more efficient at adding blocks because of that. So the key here is that because they don't have all that overhead that I talked about in public blockchain consensus methods, they are much, much more efficient. We'll talk a little bit later about the efficiency that is gained because they don't have to have the overhead involved with having a consensus method that requires a lot of calculations, okay? So a few things that separate blockchains that are designed specifically for business is they focus on assets and not cryptocurrencies. They have an identity mechanism instead of anonymity. In other words, if I join a Bitcoin network, they won't know who I am. If I have to join the TradeLens network because I'm a shipper, they will know who I am and they will verify who I am, and I will be an authorized member of their network. So we come to number 3, which is really the next jump off point to the next topic. It is a selective endorsement over proof of work. So in other words, the validators, the people who validate the network or validate the transactions, are members that are selected to be part of the network. And because they're selected, they're validated, and then they're given accounts, and the administrators know the account names, and the account names, the username, so to speak, is known to the network. Because of that, they don't have to have that huge overhead that proof of work provides. So we're going to talk a little bit about what this selective endorsement process is as we go on. Okay. So I hope you've enjoyed this topic. That is private versus public and permissioned versus permissionless.